Hi, I'm Caitlin Fletcher. My parents grounded me from school indefinitely until I apologized to their golden boy, Dylan. I just looked at them and said, "All right." The next morning, he was still smirking until he saw my empty closet and the submitted transfer application. He burst into the dining room, face white as a sheet. "Please tell me you haven't hit post yet." My father's smile died instantly. Friday night dinner had turned into a family meeting none of us asked for. We were all sitting around the table when Dad put his fork down and delivered the verdict like he was announcing a company policy. "You're staying home starting Monday. No school, no activities, nothing until you stand in front of the entire student body and apologize to your brother for humiliating him." Mom nodded along, eyes already glassy with that familiar mix of disappointment and favoritism. Dylan leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, trying to hide the victory grin that kept tugging at his mouth. I felt every pair of eyes on me, the same way the whole school had stared when this mess started. I took a slow breath, kept my voice completely flat, and said the one word they clearly weren't expecting. "All right." Dylan's smirk faltered for half a second. Mom blinked. Dad opened his mouth like he'd rehearsed a whole lecture and suddenly forgot every line. That was it. I pushed my chair back, walked upstairs, and closed my bedroom door so softly it almost sounded polite. Inside, the anger was roaring, but on the outside, I was already done fighting a battle they'd rigged from the start. If you've ever had parents choose the wrong kid, drop your story down in the comments. City, state. I read every single one and heart them all. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happened the second they realized I wasn't bluffing. See you in the next part. The soft click of my bedroom door still echoed in my head when the house finally went silent. I sat on the carpet back against the bed and pulled the two suitcases closer. One for clothes, one for everything that actually proved I existed outside this family. Morning arrived with a pounding on the door that rattled the frame. I opened it. Dylan stood there in yesterday's t-shirt, hair sticking up, eyes wild. He shoved past me without asking, stopped dead center in the room, and stared at the empty closet like someone had ripped the walls out. Bare hangers swung slowly. Two large suitcases sat zipped and lined up beside my desk like soldiers ready to march. He turned, face already red. "What the hell did you do?" I didn't answer, just watched him figure it out. He bolted. I heard his bare feet slap the hardwood all the way downstairs. I followed at normal speed. Mom was at the stove flipping pancakes she no longer wanted. Dad sat at the island scrolling emails. Coffee, untouched. Dylan skidded into the kitchen, grabbed my open laptop from the couch, and spun it toward them so hard the cord yanked out of the wall. The screen glowed with the newest message on top. Bold blue header nobody could miss. Subject: Georgetown Preparatory Academy. Full merit scholarship awarded Caitlin Fletcher. Immediate acceptance. Fall semester, full tuition, housing, board, and travel stipend confirmed. Mom's spatula clattered into the sink. Dad froze mid-sip, mug halfway to his mouth. Coffee dripped onto the marble and nobody moved to wipe it. Dylan's voice cracked. "Please tell me you haven't hit post yet." Dad finally put the mug down slow like it weighed 100 pounds. Posted what? I leaned against the doorframe, arms loose at my sides. "I finished the final confirmation last weekend," I said, perfectly calm. All they needed was the guidance office signature that got uploaded Friday afternoon. Mom found her voice first. "You are not leaving this house." "Actually, I am." Dad stood up so fast his stool scraped backward. "Over my dead body. You're 17. 17 years, 10 months, and 6 days, I corrected. DC law says with a full-ride scholarship to a boarding institution, parental consent becomes optional after 17 and a half. Dylan barked out a laugh that died halfway. "You're making this up." "Feel free to Google it." Mom stepped forward, hands out like she could physically stop me. "We are not paying 1 cent for some fancy school across the country." "You don't have to. Tuition, room, board, books, even the plane ticket. Everything's covered. 4 years. Dad's face shifted from shock to fury in a heartbeat. "Then you're cut off. No car, no phone plan, no college fund, nothing." I shrugged. Already switched the phone to my own plan last month, cars in my name, and the college fund was never going to be mine anyway. Silence dropped like a guillotine.
Dylan kept staring at the screen, mouth open, scrolling with a trembling finger. He stopped on the line that said boarding checking, Tuesday, August 27th. His eyes snapped to me. That's in 2 days. Correct. Mom started crying, quiet, shoulders shaking. Dad's fists clenched and unclenched at his sides. The vein in his temple throbbed the way it always did right before he lost it completely. He pointed at me, voice low and dangerous. If you walk out that door, don't ever come back. I met his eyes without blinking. That's the plan. Dylan tried one last desperate laugh. You're bluffing. You wouldn't actually leave. I pushed off the doorframe and walked past him close enough that he flinched. Watch me. I climbed the stairs. Nobody followed. Nobody even called my name. Behind me, the only sounds were Mom's muffled sobs and the slow drip of coffee hitting the floor one drop at a time. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. To understand why I'd already been secretly lining everything up for days, we have to go back to the moment this whole thing exploded. It started in the parking garage right after final period. Dylan had cornered a skinny sophomore named Ryan against a concrete pillar near the exit. I was walking to my car when I heard the shouting. By the time I got close, Ryan was on the ground holding his face, blood dripping between his fingers. Dylan stood over him, fist still clenched, breathing hard. Security cameras caught every second. 2 guards pulled my brother away while Ryan's friends helped him up. The principal's office called me in before I even reached the parking lot exit. Mr. Thompson sat behind his desk, expression grim. He'd coached me through 3 state debate championships and knew I didn't start fights. Dylan was already in the chair opposite him, arms crossed, eyes red, like he was the victim. He attacked me first, Dylan said before anyone asked. Caitlin was screaming at me in the hallway all morning. She kept calling me useless, saying I'd never amount to anything. I just lost it. I stood there stunned for half a second, then pulled out my phone. I have the hallway footage too, I told Mr. Thompson. Nothing happened this morning. He took the phone, watched the parking garage clip first, then the hallway clip. 30 silent seconds later, he slid it back across the desk. Dylan, 10-day suspension starting tomorrow. 0 tolerance for physical violence.
Caitlin, you're free to go. My brother's mouth fell open. He started protesting, voice climbing higher with every word, but the principal just pointed at the door. Word spread like wildfire. By the time I got home, Dylan had already beaten me there. He'd clearly spent the entire ride crafting his story. Mom met me in the foyer, eyes already swollen. Dad was waiting in the dining room, sleeves rolled up like he was ready for a business meeting. They sat me down at the table. Dylan slouched in the corner chair, looking small and hurt. Dad didn't waste time. You will go to school tomorrow morning, stand on the auditorium stage, and tell everyone you exaggerated the entire incident. You'll say your brother was defending himself after you pushed him too far, Mom added, voice shaking. Family comes first, Caitlin. You're the older one. You know better. I stared at the wood grain on the table. There's video proof, clear as day. Dad waved it away. People misinterpret things. One apology and this all goes away. I looked up at him. So I'm supposed to stand in front of 3,000 students and lie? You're supposed to protect your brother, Mom whispered. Dylan finally spoke, voice thick. You always make everything about you. Just say sorry and we can move on. I felt something inside me snap, clean and final. No. Dad's face darkened. Then you don't go back to school until you do. No classes, no debate practice, no leadership council, nothing. Mom reached for my hand. I pulled away. Fine, I said. Keep me home. The room went dead quiet. Dylan's eyes widened. He hadn't expected me to call the bluff. Mom started crying harder. Dad just stared like he couldn't believe the word that had just come out of my mouth. I stood up, chair scraping loud against the tile, and walked out. Upstairs, I locked my door for the first time ever. My phone buzzed 20 minutes later. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, then answered. Rebecca Torres, my guidance counselor, the one adult who'd written every single college recommendation without being asked twice, was on the line.
I just heard, she said, keeping her voice low. I also saw the footage. You did the right thing. I exhaled for what felt like the first time all day. Listen, she continued, Georgetown Preparatory Academy's merit scholarship deadline is in 4 days. I've been watching your file all year. Top grades, national debate titles, leadership positions. They want exactly what you are. This is your last realistic shot at a full ride somewhere that actually sees you. I sat down hard on the bed. I already started the application, I admitted. Good. Send me whatever you need. I'm writing the strongest recommendation of my career tonight. She paused. Whatever they're doing downstairs, Caitlin, it doesn't get to define the rest of your life. You hear me? Yes, I whispered. 4 days. Don't waste them. The call ended. I stared at the phone, then opened my laptop and got to work. I wasn't going to waste a single hour. Ku Dan Mootin 4. I didn't sleep at all that night. The laptop stayed open on my desk, cursor blinking like it was daring me to back out. I pulled every file I'd been collecting for months, transcripts, test scores, the stack of recommendation letters already sealed by 4 different teachers who'd watched me carry teams and projects while my own house treated me like an afterthought. I boxed the hardware first, the National Debate Championship trophy from junior year, the leadership medals that actually meant something, the framed newspaper clipping of our team on the front page after nationals, each one wrapped in bubble wrap and tucked into the suitcase like evidence. Kayla was the only person I told. We'd been best friends since freshman orientation, the one person who never bought the perfect family act. I texted her at 2 a.m. It's happening. Georgetown Prep. Full ride or nothing. Her reply came instantly. About damn time. I've got your back. I kept working. Essays, short answers, the optional supplemental prompt that asked why I wanted to attend a school 3 states away. I wrote the truth. 2 full pages. How the person who was supposed to protect me spent years throwing punches and then crying victim. How every achievement got dismissed if it made the golden child look bad. How I'd learned to win quietly because celebrating out loud always came with a price. I didn't cry while I typed. I was past that. At midnight, the phone rang. Unknown number. I picked up. Rebecca's voice came through low and urgent. I just submitted the strongest recommendation I've ever written. They're going to fight for you, Caitlin. I made sure of it. I whispered, thank you, because my throat had closed up. She added, whatever happens downstairs, you're bigger than this house. Remember that. Call ended. I stared at the phone, then opened my laptop and got to work. I wasn't going to waste a single hour. Then Monday morning, my phone started exploding. I was standing at the kitchen island in yesterday's sweatpants pouring orange juice when the first notification lit up the screen. Georgetown Preparatory Academy. Decision letter. I tapped it open with one thumb. The header was simple, bold, impossible to misread. Congratulations, Caitlin Flincher. Full merit scholarship. 4 years tuition, room, board, books, travel stipend, and round-trip airfare enclosed. Mandatory boarding check-in, Tuesday night, Zolo. I read it 3 times before the words actually sunk in. Mom shuffled in wearing the same robe she had on all weekend, eyes red-rimmed, hair unbrushed. She saw my face and stopped dead in the doorway. What now? She asked, voice. I turned the phone so she could see the screen. She leaned forward, squinted, then let out a sound halfway between a gasp and a sob. Her hand flew to her mouth. Within seconds, Dad was behind her, drawn by the noise. Mom just handed him the phone without speaking. He read it standing up, scrolling slowly, jaw getting tighter with every line. When he reached the part about the plane ticket, he looked up at me like I'd slapped him. This is a joke. It's not. Mom found her voice. We never signed a single form. You don't have to. I spun my laptop around, already open to the exact page Rebecca had bookmarked for me. District of Columbia Code, Section 38202. Once a student is 17 years and 9 months and has a verified full-ride scholarship to a private boarding academy, parental consent is no longer required. I'm 17 years, 10 months, and 6 days. They accepted me anyway.
Dad's face cycled through 3 shades of red before settling on something darker. You planned this whole thing behind our backs. I planned for the day you'd force me to choose between my future and protecting Dylan's feelings. Turns out that day came sooner than expected. Mom stepped forward, hands reaching. Baby, please. We'll sit down tonight, all 4 of us. We'll figure something out. I stepped back. There's nothing to figure out. Dad slammed the phone onto the counter so hard the case cracked. Fine. You want to be an adult? Be an adult. I'm freezing every account with your name on it. The second I get to the bank, the college fund you think is yours disappears. Phone plan canceled by lunch. Car stays in the garage. Title or no title, it's not leaving this property. I pulled my keys from my pocket and set them down softly next to the cracked phone. Title transferred last month. Phone's on my own plan since spring break. And the college fund, you moved 80% of it into Dylan's account the day he got his learner's permit. There wasn't much left to freeze. Mom made a broken sound and sank into a chair. Dad just stared at me, breathing through his nose like a bull, deciding whether to charge. Dylan appeared at the bottom of the stairs in boxers and a wrinkled t-shirt, clearly just woken up by the shouting. He took one look at the scene and smirked. So, the princess is throwing a tantrum because she can't say, sorry. I ignored him completely and opened a new contact Rebecca had sent yesterday. Thomas Harland, education attorney, Georgetown Prep Alumni Network. One ring, Harlan Law. Mr. Harland, Caitlin Fletcher. We spoke last week about the scholarship contract. Good morning, Caitlin. Calm, professional, zero surprise in his voice. I have the fully executed agreement right here. Everything is binding. They cannot stop you. I hit speaker and set the phone on the island. Dad opened his mouth, closed it. Mom started crying harder, rocking slightly in the chair. Mr. Harland continued. A courtesy car from the academy will arrive at your residence tomorrow at 7 sharp. Any attempt at physical interference will be treated as obstruction of an emancipated minor's federally recognized right to education. Local police have already been notified as a precaution. The line went quiet except for Mom's sobs. Dad's eyes locked on mine. Pure rage, but underneath it, something else. Something that looked almost like panic. I held his stare. For the first time ever, he was the one who looked away. I still put on my old uniform and walked into the high school one last time. The morning air was crisp, sky cloudless. Students already milling around the front steps slowed when they spotted me. Phones rose instantly. Someone whispered my name. By the time I reached the main gate, the crowd had doubled. Dylan was leaning against a brick pillar, arms folded, wearing the same smug grin he'd perfected over the weekend. His friends flanked him like backup singers. Look who decided to show up, he called loud enough for everyone within 20 yards to hear. Finally ready to apologize to your little brother in front of the whole school? A couple of his buddies snickered. More phones angled toward us. I didn't slow down. He stepped directly into my path, blocking the sidewalk. Come on, Caitlin, say the words. I'm sorry, Dylan, I made it all up. Easy. The circle around us tightened. Someone started recording vertically. I stopped a foot away. Move. Or what, you gonna cry to Daddy again? I shifted my backpack and took one deliberate step around him. He shot out an arm and caught my elbow hard. Let go. Make me. His grip tightened. A few gasps rippled through the crowd. I twisted my arm exactly the way the self-defense instructor taught us sophomore year, broke his hold, and kept walking. He stumbled, caught himself on the fence, face flushing dark red. The front doors were 30 yards away. I didn't look back. Inside the main office was already waiting. Mr. Thompson stood when I entered. Mom and Dad were seated across from his desk, both looking like they hadn't slept in days. Mom's eyes were swollen, Dad's tie was crooked for the first time I could ever remember. Mr. Thompson closed the door behind me, cutting off the hallway noise. I pulled the thick cream envelope from my backpack and laid it on the desk like I was serving legal papers. He opened it, read the cover letter, then flipped to the scholarship contract. His eyes moved quickly down the page. Full merit scholarship, he announced, voice carrying in the small room. Georgetown Preparatory Academy, 4 years, total coverage, immediate boarding placement. He stood, came around the desk, and extended his hand. Kaylin, this is extraordinary. Congratulations. He shook my hand firmly, smiling wide, right in front of my parents. Mom made a broken sound and pressed a tissue to her mouth. Dad just stared at the letter like it had personally insulted him.
The door burst open again. Dylan shoved in, breathing hard, hair wild from running. "She can't just leave. Tell her she can't." Mr. Thompson turned the contract so my brother could see the raised gold seal. They already accepted her. It's binding. Dylan's face collapsed. He looked from the letter to Mom to Dad to me. The smirk was long gone. "I'm sorry," he muttered, eyes on the carpet. "I didn't mean for everything to get this crazy. Just forgive me, okay? Stay." Every adult in the room went still. I looked at him for a long moment. Too late. Kayla and half the debate team had crowded into the doorway behind him. I walked straight to them. Kayla threw her arms around me first, squeezing so tight I could barely breathe. One by one, the others followed. Seniors, juniors, even a couple of freshmen who had never spoken to me before. Someone started crying. Someone else started clapping. Soon the entire hallway outside was cheering. Mr. Thompson's voice rose above it all. "The faculty couldn't be prouder, Caitlin. You have represented this school with honor." I nodded once, wiped my eyes, quickly slung my now empty backpack over one shoulder, and walked out.
The corridor parted like it knew exactly what was happening. Phones tracked me the entire length of the building. The applause grew louder with every step, echoing off mockers, bouncing off the ceiling. By the time I pushed through the front doors, the sound was deafening. I stepped into the sunlight, took one final look at the place that had both built me and broken me, and kept walking. The gates clanged shut behind me. The plane touched down in D.C. Less than 18 hours later, the first 4 months at Georgetown Prep felt like surfacing after years underwater. Classes were brutal, expectations sky high, but for once, nobody expected me to apologize for taking up space. I threw myself into everything. Debate practice until 10 every night, student council campaigns before sunrise, mock trial prep on weekends. When the ballots closed in November, the entire senior dorm wing was plastered with posters that simply read, "President Caitlin Fletcher." I won 94% of the vote. The other 6% wrote in my name anyway. Spring brought nationals in Chicago. We swept every category. When the chief judge announced Georgetown Prep as grand champions, the auditorium exploded. I stood on stage, holding the crystal trophy while teammates lifted me onto their shoulders. Strangers chanted my name. My phone blew up with congratulatory texts from numbers I didn't even recognize. That night, the team carried me through the hotel lobby like I'd won the Olympics. It felt like breathing clean air for the first time. Then, one random Thursday right after mock UN practice, Kayla's name popped up on my screen. 3 short messages, one after another. Dylan got expelled, permanent this time. Punched a kid in the cafeteria, 20 witnesses. They're shipping him to County Alternative next week, worst school in the district. I stared at the texts until the screen went dark. Another message followed an hour later. "Your parents are screaming at each other nonstop. The college fund they'd been hoarding for him since he was 5, useless now. Your mom keeps saying it's your fault for abandoning him." I set the phone down and went back to annotating my closing statement. The calls started the next morning. 47 missed calls over the following 7 days. Mom left 8 voicemails that began with tears and ended with guilt. Dad left 11 that started angry and got angrier. Dylan left 3, voice cracking, asking if I could just talk to him so everything could go back to normal. I never pressed play on a single one. By day 5, Mom's messages were barely coherent, repeating the same plea. "He's your little brother. He needs you." Day 6 brought a text from an unknown number. "It's Dylan. I'm sorry. Okay, I get it now. Please call." I deleted the thread. Day 7. The phone rang while I was in the middle of a practice round. I silenced it, finished my rebuttal, and won the ballot. That night, I opened the call log, highlighted every Maryland area code, and blocked them all. The screen went blissfully blank. The only sound in my dorm room was the quiet hum of the mini fridge and Justice, my new shelter puppy, snoring softly on the extra pillow. I never looked back. 6 years later, their numbers no longer appeared on my screen at all. I walked across the Georgetown University commencement lawn in bright May sunlight, hood trimmed in policy studies blue, diploma already framed in my apartment before the ceremony ended. A second full scholarship had carried me straight through without a single dollar from the old house in Maryland.
3 weeks after graduation, I accepted a senior policy advisor position at a think tank inside the Beltway. The offer letter came with a salary that made my first-year coworkers gasp. My name started appearing on briefing memos that landed on actual senators' desks before 9:30 most mornings. I bought the apartment on the 14th floor of a new glass tower in Southwest Waterfront the following spring. Closing day felt surreal, standing alone in an empty living room with sweeping views of the Potomac, keys cold in my palm, deed listing only Caitlin Fletcher. No co-signers required, no emergency contacts. Justice came home 8 months later. I found him at the city shelter on a rainy Saturday, a wiry brown mutt with one shredded ear and a permanent, suspicious squint. The volunteer warned me he didn't warm up easily. 3 treats and 1 slow blink later, he climbed into my lap and refused to leave. I signed the papers on the spot. Kayla still texts once or twice a year, short updates only, because she knows that's the boundary I set. Your mom moved into a 2-bedroom rental after the divorce was final. Your dad took a studio near his office and works until the building locks up. Dylan never applied to college. He scans groceries at the Walmart offer-out 7, lives with your mom, and spends most nights gaming in the dark. That's the entire report. No commentary, no invitation to reply. I read, close the thread, and go back to whatever I was doing. Some people assume I carry scars. I don't. I carry clarity. I mentor high school debaters every Saturday at the local library, the same way Rebecca once stayed late for me. I run 5 miles along the river before sunrise, while Justice trots beside me like a furry bodyguard. I testify at congressional hearings when asked, speak at conferences when invited, and turn down the rest because my calendar belongs to me now. Thanksgiving passes without a single text. Christmas morning, I wake to Justice's coal nose and the smell of coffee I brewed for myself. Birthdays come and go with cards from Kayla, Rebecca, and the debate kids I coach. No Maryland area codes ever ring. I keep the trophies from high school nationals on a shelf in my office, not for nostalgia, but as proof. Proof that excellence doesn't need permission. Proof that walking away can be the moment everything finally begins. Cutting them off wasn't punishment. It was the day I stopped volunteering to be the family punching bag. Some people are born into homes. Others have to build their own. I built mine brick by brick, paycheck by paycheck, boundary by boundary. And every morning when Justice thumps his tail against the floor and the sun hits the river just right, I know I chose the only life that was ever going to fit. The past stays where I left it, 3 states away, behind a gate that clanged shut years ago. I never opened it again, and I never will.